Welcome to the Pro Football Hall of Fame for another installment of our Before the Snap series. If this is your first time tuning in, if you've never seen this program before, you are in for an awesome program featuring our special guest here today from the Tennessee Titans. What is Before the Snap, you might be asking? Well, what we're here to do is showcase all the great careers and jobs in and around the NFL, including the community relations, community impact world that we'll be talking about today. So you're going to learn what it takes to get a job in sports. How do you set yourself up? How to network? How to do all the tips and tricks to ensure that you can get your foot in the door to get an awesome career in and around. We're going to talk about the NFL, but truly any sport if you're interested in doing that. If you've tuned in before, yeah, like we said, you're in store for another excellent program. My name is Jake Ray. I'm the Youth and Education Manager here at the Pro Football Hall of Fame in Canton, Ohio, where it's our mission to honor the greatest of the game, preserve its history, promote its values, and to celebrate excellence together. Those values we promote are those of commitment, integrity, courage, respect, honesty, all of which make our Hall of Famers, our 362 Hall of Famers, the best football players and minds that they can be, but truly made them great men as well, great men off the field, fathers, sons, brothers, dads, members of their community, and truly can make you a great employee of any organization that you end up with. And you'll hear these values pop up time in and time out again through the program today. And that just goes to show how important that they are. Before we get started, some thank yous I'd like to pass out. First, I'd like to thank our teachers and administrators, educators, professors, anybody that allowed us to come into their classroom, whether it's live right now today or you're watching us 6 months down the road. Thank you so much for allowing us to just be a small part of your students' learning experience. To our students, we want to thank you for tuning in as well. Without you, this program is here for you. Without you, this program can't take place. We're here to hear all of the great questions that you have today. As we always say, Nathan's here, I'm here. Nobody wants to hear us ask questions. Now, we've got a lot of questions we can ask, but we want to hear all the questions that our students have. So as always, in the chat, let us know who you are, where you're watching from. And if you have a question, go ahead and put that there in the live chat. Nathan's in our Gold Jacket Lounge watching all those come in. If you don't have a question, that's okay. Still let us know where you're watching from. We want to see how many awesome colleges, all in universities all over the country we have with us today. So, but as we suggest, get your questions in. This is the opportunity for you to ask a question to an industry professional. And then lastly, and most importantly, our special guest today, Jeremy Schutte. I'd like to thank you for being a part of the program today and truly for everything you do for the game of football. It might not seem like it, but you truly have a huge impact on the game as a whole, and indirectly that has an impact on us here at the Pro Football Hall of Fame. So thank you for everything that you do, and thank you for being a part of the program today. So we're lucky and grateful to be joined by you. A little bit about Jeremy. He is the community outreach assistant for the Tennessee Titans, entering his third NFL season and his second down in Nashville. He's responsible for planning and execution of club community impact events and programs such as community visits, Crucial Catch, and foundation initiatives. In addition, he works with current players, Titans alumni, and Titans entertainment on all appearances all over the community. Prior to being with the Titans, he spent one season with the Kansas City Chiefs in their community outreach department, and 1 year as a foster family recruiter in Kansas City. Studied social work and communication at the University of Arkansas and graduated in 2019, when he was at Arkansas, he interned for Youth Bridge, a group home for teenage boys in the Yvonne Richardson Community Center. So you can tell just by there, Jeremy's got a great heart for everything based in the community. So Jeremy, welcome to Before the Snap. We're lucky to have you.
Yeah, thanks for the introduction, Jake. I'm excited to be here and excited to hear everyone's questions.
Awesome. Well, we'll dive right in. So how we start out, we just kind of like to set a basis of what your job looks like on a day-to-day basis. So kind of that 10,000 foot view, what do you do on a day-to-day basis with the Titans, and what are some of the things you're handling as we're going through the NFL season right now?
Yeah, absolutely. So I think, what we'll find out as we get going here is that no day in sports really looks the same. We get to wear a lot of different hats and do a lot of different things. So a day-to-day thing for me would look like I track our appearances. I track our appearance payments. This morning, I was in a meeting for Walter Payton Man of the Year, discussing our nomination, how that's going to look, outlining all the things that he's done, and how we're going to market that to our market and abroad. And so, yeah, we do a whole bunch of different stuff. This afternoon, we'll probably do little things like we ship out donations, right? I mean, it's small and tedious, but somebody's got to do it, and we get that done. And then we, on our foundation side, we get grant requests pretty much every day. So usually on Fridays, we try and sit down, go through those, and figure out where our foundation money is going to go.
And I want to talk a little bit and focus in on there because you mentioned something there, the little tedious things. And we all know that there's those entry level jobs where you're going to have to do things that nobody else really wants to do. And, it's just part of, getting into a job in any organization. But you mentioned how important that they are. Can you touch a little bit on that? And, just from the things that you've seen, how important it is to do those little things, put a smile on your face and go to work. And what message does that send to the entire organization?
No, absolutely. Like you said, it's small and tedious and somebody's got to do it. But I think that if you can humble yourself and think about the impact that you're having, so we get little things like, fan mail all the time. Hey, going through a tough time. Can you send me a fan pack? Can you send me an autographed item? Can you send me a video of somebody saying what's up to me? And, we'll talk to a couple of weeks ago, I got Ryan Tannen. It'll take a 5-second video of, hey, I heard you're going through a hard time. We're thinking about you. We're praying about you. Something like that, or we send them a fan pack that's just filled with little Titans tchotchkes, right? And it seems like something small and something that for me, honestly, sometimes gets put on the back burner and I don't want to do it. I'll do it at 4:30 or 5 when I'm kind of walking out the door. But you'll get a letter a couple weeks later of, hey, you got your fan pack and it really meant a lot. It lifted my day. So if you can humble yourself and do those little tedious things that aren't glamorous and that nobody really dreams of doing when they're 8, but that you can think make a big impact, it goes a long way.
And that's just part of the entire journey, right? Getting into sports. No one's going to get in and own a team or be in charge of a department right off the bat. You're going to have to go through those, quote unquote, growing pains. And, at the end of the day, you're truly learning how much of an impact those small things you can do. You mentioned how impactful a 30-second to a minute video can be, or an autographed note card or football card or jersey that comes in the mail. It may seem little and tedious, but at the end of the day, that fan engagement, that fan experience, you're creating a lifetime memory for that fan. At the end of the day, I think that's the goal, right? As a member of an NFL team.
Absolutely. Community impact, where I live, it can mean many different things. It can mean a $50,000 grant or donation, or it can mean taking 5 minutes out of your day to make that one fan who's going through a tough time feel extra special. So we try and do both things here. And we do both things on a daily basis, which is great.
Awesome. Well, I would be remiss if I didn't say I love the jersey we got there behind you. Robert Brazil, Dr. Doom, Hall of Famer, one of our favorites, along with everybody else here at the Hall of Fame. Great guy. Did some awesome events for us here last summer during our Enshrinement Week, powered by Johnson Controls. Done some Hall of Famer programs before. So really, really cool to see that. And, and I like because, you work for the Titans, that jersey behind you is an Oilers jersey. So obviously 2 different teams, but one organization. We talked to Robert when he was here once about that. And I loved his answer because he felt like he was a member of the Titans organization, even though he never played for the Titans. So, looking at you, looking at that, how, especially somebody with, an older player like that, how cool is it to see their impact that they do and using their platform in the community, just like what you're doing? Obviously they're doing it in a different realm, but how cool is it to see them doing things in the community too?
Yeah, you touched on at the start. I got to meet Robert a couple weeks ago. We had our homecoming week, which is something that we also handle in the community impact department. A lot of moving parts, but we get to meet some awesome dudes, and Robert's definitely one of those great guys that comes around. Alumni players are huge for us, as I'm sure you guys can imagine. Getting current players out with their schedules and stuff can be tricky, especially in season and out of season, to be honest with you, with guys living kind of all over the country these days. So alumni players are great, and a lot of them settle down here in Nashville. So the fact that they get to use their platform to kind of amplify local charities, local foundations, whether that be their own or local community ones, it's been great to see. And I think a lot of guys also, when they get done playing, like, Robert, they get to find their passions and explore what they're passionate about a little bit, and get even more involved in the community. So we love working with our former players, and it's been great.
To kind of flip back to what your career, obviously, like I said at the beginning, I feel like you have a heart and the mind for leaving an impact in the community. You can just see that by the experience that you had coming out of high school, getting into college. Was that the goal? Was that always that you wanted something to do in that realm, in that world? Or did it take you till you had an internship or volunteer experience to see, like, no, this is what I want to do?
Yeah, I think like a lot of kids, whether it be coming out of high school or early in college, I really had no idea what I wanted to do. I was in business for a year at Arkansas, quickly found out that wasn't really my passion. Thought about coming out of high school. I thought about going to play college basketball and coaching and going down that route was something that I explored. And it wasn't really until my sophomore, junior of college, that piece of service and that piece of helping others that I've been kind of missing for the last couple of years that was instilled in me when I was growing up. I kind of got that itch to be like, hey, I should be doing something here, right? I should be giving back a little bit more than I am currently. And then I remember having a conversation with my dad and figuring out that, hey, you can blend your passion and your love of sports for helping and serving the community. And I was like, man, that's exactly what I wanted to do. So it took me kind of a windy road to figure out my goals and figure out what I wanted to do. But once I figured it out, I kind of zeroed in on it.
And you mentioned something there. I'm going to say it's unique to sports, but I know it's not. And it's combining your passions. Obviously, you said you're a former athlete, even looking to play at that college level. So you know how important sports are. But then you took a passion you have off the field. You're working in the community and being in the community, and we're able to combine that to a full-time job, in sports. So, we may think that there's no way that you can combine something you're interested in sports, whether it be music or math or history, and the opportunities are endless. So for you, how important is it to kind of, look back and when you got into college, kind of do that research to see what options are out there? What could I do? And if you put yourself into a student's shoe nowadays that might not know exactly what they want to do, how would you encourage them to kind of step out of their comfort zone and find that one job that they truly could love?
Yeah, I think it's a lot of conversations, right? It's a lot of conversations with people in different fields. For me, like I said, I was able to have conversations with people on the nonprofit side of things, people on the sports side of things, and kind of pull pieces from each thing. I would say that me being passionate about serving and not just necessarily sports, but kind of blending those two passions, like you talked about, really made me stand out. Where there was a situation where, okay, this guy isn't just doing anything he can to get in the building. He's not going to try and fit a square peg in a round hole, but he's passionate about this department. He's passionate about the work that we're going to do. So like you said, whether that's math, history, writing, business analytics, creative. I just got done with a meeting on our creative side. All that stuff. It really stands out when you're like, hey, I love sports, but apart from loving sports, I also am very passionate about this area.
Now, being an athlete, obviously you've been a part of sports and can see what sports can teach those who play it. So, we're going to talk about the game of football because we are the Pro Football Hall of Fame. You are the Tennessee Titans. So football is kind of forefront in all of our minds. But how important is the game itself? And what are some of those life lessons that people who play it, coach it, watch it, work in it can learn from the game to apply to their life off the field, whether that be in their family, in the classroom, in the boardroom? What are those life lessons that they could take away from the game?
I mean, it's going to sound super corny, Jake, and I don't want to sound, too corny, but it's teamwork, right? Like I'm in a department of 6-7 people, and we constantly are working as a team. And then, we're also collaborating with other departments all the time. We have big, giant organizational events that involve pretty much, everyone on the business side of things. And you got to be willing to make concessions, to meet people halfway, to know your role and execute your role well. It is similar to the game of football. It sounds cheesy, but you got to be able to work as a team. And I think that especially in the football side of things, when we see it modeled out there, it makes it easier for us to go, all right, it's not all about me. It's not all about our department. We can make some concessions. We can meet each other halfway and kind of accomplish one bigger goal.
And I got one question here, and then we're going to throw it out to Nathan for some student questions. I know he's got some he wants to ask as well, but you talk about that idea of teamwork, and obviously we see that on the field. I think there's a very cool relationship that not a lot of organizations get to see when you look at professional sports. Is there's the business side that you're a part of, and then there's the football side. How much bleed over do you see in, consistent values and what each side believes in, mission statements, vision, values? How much crossover is there? And do you see, more success when the team succeeds? And how does that relationship work? And truly, do you see if the team does something or believes in something that kind of bleeds over to the business side, whether it's Coach Rabel coming in and sitting with your marketing team, or how does that relationship work within the Titans?
Well, there's a ton of bleed over. As you can imagine, there's like for community, right? We got to grab guys all the time to come to community events. We got to have sit down conversations with them to figure out what they're passionate about and where we want to plug them in the community. You mentioned marketing real briefly, right? There's a lot of bleed over there. And I think an organization is most successful when you are cohesive like that. We have a saying here, one team, one goal, right? And I think it trickles down from leadership. But when you have that cohesive thing and you have equipment guys coming up or football ops guys coming up and guys like me going down and our marketing folks going down, we're all kind of talking and coinciding together. I think that's when an organization functions at its highest level.
And then you talked about something there. Well, yes, there's the quote unquote upstairs and downstairs
Yeah,
within your
yeah,
organization. That can go for any organization. Just doesn't have to be, a football team. I think just football and pro sports are so unique
yeah.
in that way. So, like I said, I know Nathan's got some questions he wants to ask. I've seen some student comments coming through, so I hope we got some questions from them. So I'm gonna send out to Nathan Martin, youth and education coordinator here at the Hall of Fame, for some more questions.
Yeah, Jake, thank you so much. And Jeremy, thank you for being a part of the program with us today. The students have done a great job of letting us know where they're watching from, but we need more questions. We need more questions. So I'm encouraging our students. I'm watching the viewership. I can tell you guys are engaged and you're viewing the program, but we need your questions. Jeremy wants to hear from you.
Absolutely.
But we got one student question right now, Jeremy. So I'm gonna go to Mackenzie, a student from UMass up in Boston, and they want to know. You mentioned you went into college, you kind of were, freshman year of business, then you weren't sure. And then finally by your junior year, it sounded like you settled in on a major. So what was that major and kind of how did that major prepare you for the work that you do today?
Yeah. So, like I said, I was kind of bouncing around, didn't really know what I want to do. Settled in on social work. My first internship was with, you mentioned in the introduction, Yvonne Richardson Community Center. I had a great boss at Yvonne Richardson Community Center, Tanisha Gist, shout out Tanisha. And she really focused me on, hey, you've been kind of screwing around in college for a couple of years, right? You got the lay of the land. It's been great. What do you want to do? And she made me map out my goals and map out a mission statement. So it was really a great experience for her to just sit down and say, hey, Jeremy, let's focus in on what you want to do. And she was the first person, who kind of pushed me towards sports and community outreach. So, yeah.
Yeah, I think that's awesome. And I love that you're able to, give some praise and honor to those people that impacted you in such a meaningful way. We asked for more questions. We got one already. This is from Brian, University of Illinois. What are some of the projects that you've worked on, Jeremy, during the off season? And do the projects and the events that you're working on, do they tend to be bigger for the community outreach standpoint in the off season than they are during the regular season?
Yeah, that's a great question. And he kind of hit the nail on the head right there. So a lot of our work in the off season is planning and executing, right? So all of our community events that you'll see on our Twitter, on our website, whether it's game day initiatives, off season initiatives, whatever, we map that all out in March, April, May, June, so that by the time training camp comes around, we're rolling, right? We know what groups are coming to training camp. We know what groups are coming on our game day honorees. We know where our community visits are going to be. So we have all that stuff mapped out. And then by the time the season comes around, we're basically just implementing. So a lot of the nitty gritty details that aren't fun, right? The schedulings, the points of contacts, the logistics, that's all planned out early on. And then by the time season comes around, we just plug and play.
So would you say that you feel like in your position and working in the community with the Titans that you have a quote unquote downtime during the year?
Yeah, I would say, as you guys probably know, we took a tough loss to the Bengals last year in the first round of playoffs, second round of playoffs. So that first 2 weeks, 3 weeks after the season, it's been such a grind, right? You got people putting in 6 days a week, whatever it is. We kind of take 2 weeks, I feel like, where we just recharge. And then after that, there's a lot of brainstorming that goes on, which is, to be honest with you, one of my favorite parts, where we just get to sit down with our department or some other departments and get to throw out ideas, right? My boss, Tina, she's great about just, hey, give me some ideas. What do you like? What do you see from other teams that you want to try and copy? What do you see from, your personal life that you want to try and implement? And it's a lot of brainstorming, just sitting in the conference room and chit-chatting and talking. So the off season, it can be tedious and it can be boring at times, but it can also be a great time for young people like me to be creative and kind of make your mark and try and implement some new programs. So I think if you're getting into sports, like a lot of you guys want to get into, the off season and the stuff that you don't always see on TV is really where you can shine.
Yeah, for sure. And I think that's important. And it's awesome to hear that down with the Titans, you guys have that time to recharge, but then also kind of evaluate what went well and
Exactly.
what can we, create, what's new. Jake, I'm surprised he hasn't told you, or maybe he has, this program before the snap came out of kind of a downtime. Everything shut down immediately right after COVID. We didn't know how long people would be working from home. And this program came out of just sitting around brainstorming and like, hey, we could do a program like this. And now we've done it for 2.5 years. So definitely really cool that you guys have kind of something similar that you built in yearly.
I love it.
I've got a ton of questions coming in here from the students. I'm going to sift through those and find some great questions to come back to you, Jeremy. But for now, we're going to go to Jake, and then he'll send it back once I get some of these student questions sorted through.
Awesome. Thanks, Nathan. Yeah, I've got the stream pulled up here beside me, and it's just one after another been rolling in. So awesome response from the students. Can't wait to hear those questions. Going back into your career a little bit, we always like to ask this question because I think it's just super interesting. Being in sports, you get to be a part of a lot of, unique events, times on the field, games, you're a part of so many cool things that people would, pay a lot of money to be a part of. So I always say, you're retired, you're sitting back in your chair, you're lazy boy at the end of your career, reflecting on all the things you got to be a part of. Is there a moment right now that stands out to you where you go, dang, I can't believe I was a part of this? And what is that moment or moments that you've had so far in your career?
Yeah. I think you're definitely right. We're very lucky we get to participate in some really, really cool stuff that I think 10, 12, 13, 14-year-old me would have been going crazy over, right? When I was in Kansas City, in 2019, 2020, lucky enough to win the AFC Championship over the Titans. Don't tell anybody here I said that. On our home field, right? So that was great. And then go to the Super Bowl. So that's obviously something that I get to mark down and something that I'll remember forever. And then here, it's simple stuff like alumni weekend. I mentioned earlier, we had that a couple of weeks ago where I got to meet guys like Robert Brazil, Eddie George, right? Chris Johnson, all those awesome dudes that I kind of grew up hearing the names, and then all of a sudden, they're right there. So the best part about those events and the best memories that I have are just the people that I'll get to meet, getting to kind of go beyond just, oh, that's a name, that's Eddie George, who is, our all-time leading rusher or whatever, to, oh, he's a cool dude and a great guy and easy to talk to. So I think the people is definitely something I'll remember. And then also obviously that Super Bowl is going to be hard to forget.
Yeah, that if we talk to people who have been involved with the Super Bowl, that's normally at the top of their list. Yeah. So that's a good transition for us. And in the program here, you talked about all those legends, but on the opposite end of the spectrum, you've got all these new players coming into the team as well. And one of the cool things we do here at the Hall of Fame is we're able to, preserve that history of all these new players who are coming into the league. So what we're going to do is we're going to send it out to Jerry Shockey, the Director of Youth and Education here, who's in our Pro Football Today gallery. So a lot of artifacts coming into the Hall of Fame weekly. Bill Belichick's record-setting win. We just put a jersey from Tua on display. And he's in front of a display that's fairly cool. And he's going to talk a little bit about the relationship that this has with your career. So Jerry, whenever you're ready, take it away.
All right. Thank you, Jake. Appreciate it. And Jeremy, thank you for being here today. And students that are tuned in from across the country at universities all across the country, what an opportunity it is for you guys to be able to network here today, get to know a little bit more about the industry. And a lot of times in sports, I'm a sport business major as well from the University of Mount Union. And a lot of times we were pushed sales, ticket sales, get in easy century into sports. There are so many other career opportunities out there, like community relations and these other areas that are out there. So to get an inside look from someone that's doing this, what an awesome experience it is for you guys. So I encourage you to take advantage of this, not only submitting questions, but also taking advantage of the LinkedIn, profiles and all that stuff. It's a great opportunity here today. But I'm actually standing here today in our Pro Football Today gallery here at the Pro Football Hall of Fame, and it's here that players of today are honored. And as history is made, it's preserved immediately. And I'm standing right in front of a little bit of history from this past draft. I'm standing in front of the 2022 NFL draft cards that were the draft that was hosted in Las Vegas. And it was here the dreams came true for some of the top young players we see, like Aiden Hutchinson, Sauce Gardner, and many others. But the Titans used a first-round pick that they had to select a certain wide receiver out of Arkansas with the 18th selection. So Jeremy, being an Arkansas graduate, that had to be pretty special for you to have your employer actually draft someone who you may have been a fan of as well. Can you talk about that, just that experience, but also about how you guys not only engage your legends, but also your rookies and your free agents and try to get them tied into the community right away?
Yeah, absolutely. So great moment for me. Obviously, we had to trade fantastic wide receiver, AJ Brown, to get that pick. He's having a pretty good year in Philly right now. But I was pretty pumped. I got to watch Traylon play pretty much every single game he ever played in college. So I was stoked. But yeah, like you said, when we get our rookies in the door, we like to get them pretty implemented in the community real fast. One of the things we do is we take them to a local library and we do a simple event. It's fun. It's cute. Everyone loves it. It's easy for the rookies to get involved. Rookie reads, where they just get to read one of our books. Coach Vrabel actually has a foundation where he produces books, so they read one of those. And then we also take them to a restaurant on our historical Jefferson Street, which is historically where the Black community has resided. And they get to hear from city council members just about the history of Nashville and the history of that area. And that's pretty cool as well. So we do those two things, I think, within the first couple of weeks of them getting in the door. And our player engagement director, Chick Agiasi, does a great job of connecting with us and making sure that we get them rolling.
Perfect. Thank you, Jeremy. I appreciate your time here today. And Jake, I'm going to send it back to you.
All right. Thanks, Jerry. And, Jeremy, you have the unique perspective of being involved in so many different events, throughout the community and throughout the calendar year. Is there one that's your favorite? You mentioned a couple there, but is there one that you look forward to every year? We have a football camp we do here every fall called our Playmakers Camp, where we bring 200 to 300 special needs student athletes to the Hall of Fame, and they get to do a football camp out in Tom Benson Hall of Fame Stadium. They get to tour the Hall of Fame. And while it's just a one-day smaller event, it's one of our favorite events to do every year and put on. So, from your side of things, is there one that kind of sticks out to you that you look forward to every year, or do they all kind of have that same importance in your mind?
They're all very important, right? I definitely have my favorites. I love doing our Big Brothers Big Sisters shopping spree. We do it around Christmas time every time. We partner with Academy Sports. We give kids gift cards and they just get to go nuts, right? So that's always a really fun one, and it's in the holiday spirit, which is great. We have an event coming up for the first time this year at the end of November called Convoy of Hope, where most of our guys are going to be at. And that's a kind of a one-stop shop resource fair is what I describe it as, where people can get health screenings and they get groceries and they can get winter wear and all this awesome stuff. So I haven't seen that one yet. It's the first year we're going to do it, but I'm excited for that one as well. So I'll let you guys know how it goes.
For sure. We'd love to know how that goes. And to get back, kind of to the career building and getting your career started. I know we have a lot of questions that come up. Nathan just sent me a message, got 5 or 6 really good ones we want to ask. But before we dive into this, we've mentioned it a little bit before, and it's that idea of, starting a network and how this program can be a vehicle for that to help students jumpstart their network, meet somebody who's working in and around a sport that they might want to work in one day. How important is it, to network? College professors, young professionals talk about it all the time, how important that it is. But, and as a college student, you might, yeah, whatever. Okay. Yeah, I hear it's important. I'll go to this conference and meet these people, whatever. But truly, at the end of the day, how important is it to get a network started early in college, but then continue to build that network once you're in an organization, in a career that you want to be in?
Yeah, it's super important to network, and I'm really big on relationships. I think the difference between networking and relationships is that consistency, right? And I think one thing that you'll find with a lot of people that are in the sports industry is they've had to grind to get here, and most of them have had somebody that's been able to reach out and help them get where they're at. So, I think it's important to start early. Like you said, I think it's important to be consistent. And then I think it's also, if you reach out to people that are in this industry, I think you'll find that they're very, very receptive to, grabbing a cup of coffee, sitting down on a Zoom call, responding to your LinkedIn message, whatever it is. People are very open about that, because I know for me specifically, I've had a ton of people that have helped me get where I'm at.
And I don't want to speak for you, but everybody watching, it sounds like the door's open. We've got the LinkedIn link posted in the live chat. The opportunity is there. Take advantage of it. And, you're starting to do that with asking these questions. And then with that, what's being said, I'm going to throw it out to Nathan here. You probably won't hear from me for a while. Nathan's got some awesome questions from our college students here. So Nathan, whenever you're ready, take it away.
Awesome. Thanks again, Jake. And this first one we've got from our students, I want to make sure I get all these names right. Brody, who attends Butler University, Jonah, who attends Tulane, and Anthony, San Diego State University. They all kind of asked the same question. So we're going to put it together here. Jeremy, what type of advice would you give on just getting a job in the NFL? That first piece of advice, kind of getting your foot in the door. What are you telling college students when they ask that?
Oh, yeah, that's a great question. No, it's a tough one. The short answer is there's no real secret sauce. We just talked about relationships. I think that a LinkedIn DM and a Zoom call can ultimately lead to a job. But there is no real secret sauce to it. You got to be passionate about the field that you're applying for. You got to find something that kind of sets you apart in the interview process. And then, if you have any familiarity with people in the organization, or you have built those relationships and done a great job networking early on, it makes it easier. But for me, the biggest point is whether it be, we talked about ticket sales, marketing, community impact, whatever that may be, that you're can convey that you're passionate about that area and not just passionate about the Packers or the Celtics or the Lakers or whatever it is.
I like that you threw the Packers in there. You didn't probably realize you're talking to two Packers fans, and myself and Jake. Actually,
I did not. So it worked out.
Packers owners. But so next question though, I want to follow up there. So you mentioned the LinkedIn DM, right? Mm-hmm. How do we, young professionals, students, how do you get over like that awkwardness of like a blind reach out? The students watching today, if they reach out to you on LinkedIn, they can say, hey, Jeremy, I saw you on Before the Snap. That kind of connecting point right there to get things started. But if you haven't met this person, you've never heard from this person, but you see their job title and you go, wow, such and such job title, that sounds interesting. How do you get over that awkwardness? How can you engage and start that conversation? How would you advise that?
I mean, I think it's going to be a little awkward, right? There's no way to escape the random DM on LinkedIn or, random email or whatever it is. And you just got to be comfortable with that. I think part of networking and part of building relationships is getting over that fear. And I get it. It can be scary to call someone who's been in the league 20 years or 10 years or whatever it is, or to DM someone who you've never spoken to. But that's part of it. And I think, like I said earlier, I think if you do take that leap and you do shoot someone an email or a DM, you'll be shocked at how receptive they are and how willing they are to give you a little bit of their time and talk to you about a few things.
So you've been with the Chiefs and the Titans. What you would say, though, within the league, people are pretty receptive to that type of networking and relationship building within?
Oh, absolutely. Absolutely. I think, I was an intern with the Chiefs. So when I was applying for this job here, I remember reaching out to my old boss at the Chiefs and a couple other coworkers, and they were just fantastic. Just making calls, shooting emails, checking in, doing all that stuff. Part of the reason people want to get into sports, I think, is because the people that are in here are so passionate and friendly and nice and willing to help you out. So that's definitely been my experience.
Yeah, for sure. So hopefully that encourages our students to do that, to make those asks and reach out to people and really just come in curious, ask questions, learn more about what they're doing, and build relationships, not just a network. We got a question from Bailey, a student at Butler. In your position, do you prefer the more intimate, smaller interactions, smaller events, maybe where it's one guy in front of a classroom of 20 students? Or do you like the excitement of a larger, we've got 1,000 people coming to do such and such event? What do you prefer? What do you like better, in your experience working with the Titans?
That's a great question. I think first, the smaller intimate events are a lot easier, right? If there's a big multiple 100-person event that we're putting on, there's more logistics and sometimes more headaches involved. I think it just depends on the player that we're working with in that instance. Like, for instance, everyone, some people like those small intimate events and they want to just be with 10 students in a school or one family doing grocery shopping, and they want to have those one-on-one conversations. And then, some guys, they play, in front of 80,000 people on Sundays, and they love the crowd and they love the energy, and they love doing, we have a school show that we do with our mascot. Right. And then, so actually we have a school show, and then we have a more intimate visit where guys just go into classrooms and answer questions from students. And it's been really interesting to see which guys are gravitate towards the school shows where they are dancing and playing games and doing all that in front of kids, and which guys gravitate towards sitting on a chair and having those one-on-one conversations. But I'd probably say that the more intimate ones.
Yeah.
Just because they're easier. That's the short answer.
Hey, at least you're being honest. We can appreciate that. This is from Billy, University of Tampa. Best piece of I guess, or actually, what's the best skill or characteristic that you would say helps you be successful or helps people be successful in the sports industry?
Yeah. I think one thing that is one of my strengths and that I made sure to market myself when I was going through the interview process was I got a lot of energy. I like to come in, just ready to go, ready to roll, already a cup of coffee or two deep. And I think that you'll find that's a common theme around these areas is people have energy. And whether that be energy to do the things that they've been doing or to, new ideas and new thoughts, there's a lot of energy in the building, and I think it's also contagious. So that's definitely a strength and a skill that if you don't have, I would work on. So.
Yeah, for sure. And that doesn't mean you have to be the bubbly, you know, excited person, but just like come with a positive attitude, like be excited to be at work. And then like you said, that positive energy is contagious. It enhances human performance. I mean, when we're being honest. So I love that. And I think that's something that really all of us could take to heart, our students, myself, and just try to improve ourselves, because that makes us better individuals. Gabe, Jacksonville State University. How do you, Jeremy, find a balance between what you're doing at work and like still having a fun, exciting, you know, meaningful personal life, you know, social life? You're in Nashville, man. That's a hopping city. Like, so how do you get that balance there?
Yeah, I think if you ask my boss, she'd tell you I got no issues with the work-life balance. But no, I think football and in the NFL especially, it can be such a sprint at times, and then there can be major lulls as well. So I think my biggest takeaway is that when it's time to go and it's time to kind of buckle in and grind during the season, you got to do that. But then when you do have those moments, whether it's a bye week, whether it's those first couple of weeks after the season, whether it's we get like the whole week of July 4th off right before the season to kind of recharge, doing that. So for me, it's knowing when it's time to go and kind of time to buckle in and get ready. And then knowing when you got those moments where you can take a step back and recharge and relax, take a little vacation or whatever it is, just recognizing those moments and taking advantage of them.
Yeah, for sure. Our students are doing such a good job. Every time I look over, I got more questions I got to get through. But again, another question here. The organizations that you guys work with in the community, do you tend to go to the same organizations again and again, or are you always looking for new organizations to partner with and engage your players there in the Nashville community?
That's a great question. I think both. I hope that's not a cop-out answer. I think we have a lot of great long-standing relationships with local nonprofits. I mentioned Big Brothers Big Sisters earlier, Boys and Girls Club, local community centers, things like that. American Cancer Society, we have a great relationship with. So a lot of those organizations are repeating, but then we're constantly looking for people to do new events with and to partner with. I think an example of this is schools, right? We go into schools all the time. I think most organizations will tell you they try and get into schools one way or another, and just switching up the areas that we go to, switching up the age demographics that we go to, stuff like that. So you do get a lot of repeats and a lot of organizations that we're doing the same thing with every single year. But we do get a lot of new ideas and new organizations that we're constantly partnering with.
Is that more on you guys to kind of make a blind reach out and say, hey, we're the Tennessee Titans, we'd love to set up a player appearance at such and such school or such and such organization, and or is it more so, hey, they're a new organization, they reach out to you, or is it both?
It's both. We get, and again, I think most organizations tell this, a ton of requests. Can you bring a player to a school? We'd love to do something with you. I feel like I get 10 emails every day of, we'd love to do something, right? So you got to sift through those, and a lot of them do turn into something great. But then we also, like I said, in the off season, we sit down and we think about our pillars and our goals for the year. And we kind of map out the organizations we want to work with. There's so many great organizations out there. It's tough to interact with them all,
Yeah, definitely hard to say no. Because like you said, there's so many places doing great work in the community. You'd love to help them all. We got a question actually that stemmed from the conversation we were having about the LinkedIn, sending that blind ask, or trying to connect with people. And this is from Ryan. The Butler Bulldogs showed out today. They're all about this program. He's from Butler as well. He said, when you're reaching out to these people, how formal would you advise students to be in this connection or this message? Is there any such thing as being too formal? Is what Ryan wants to know.
That's a tough one because I'm a casual guy. Like if you shoot me a DM on my LinkedIn or whatever after this, like, what's up, Jared? How's it going, man? Like, had a couple questions about this. I'm real casual. Some people might be a little more formal or prefer it to be a little more formal, but I think whatever's authentic for you, man. If you're a casual person and your voice is casual and relaxed, and just be you. But if you're more formal and you do have pointed questions and other stuff or specific things that you want to talk about, not just a general networking thing, do that. So do whatever fits you. But I'm a casual guy.
Okay, last question I got from students, and then if there's anything else that comes in, I'll let Jake know. But I appreciate you answering all these questions. I know the students appreciate you answering all these questions. This one is from one of our students. They want to know, what's one piece of advice that you would give to a younger Jeremy that you wish you knew back then that you know now?
Another good question. I would say probably just be a little more, I guess focused early is the wrong way to put it. But we talked about it earlier. I spent a lot of time figuring out what I wanted to do in college. A lot of that was my own not focusing, not sitting down and thinking about it. And it doesn't have to be that serious as I'm making it sound, but taking the time to explore, taking the time to write stuff down, write your goals down, mark down things that you enjoy doing. I think being just a little more focused and a little more calculated early on, freshman, sophomore, junior year would have helped me a little bit more.
Awesome. Again, like I said, thank you so much for answering all these questions. I know the students appreciate it. I appreciate you taking time out of your day to be on Before the Snap. If we get anything else, I'll let Jake know. But if not, thank you, Jeremy. And we're going to send it back to Jake to continue the program.
Thank you, Nathan. Yeah, and I want to talk a little bit about, setting goals and reaching those goals that you're assigned, at the beginning of every year. In sales, it's easy to say to hit a money goal. In events, it's easy to hit an attendance goal. For ticketing, it's easy to hit a stadium attendance goal. In community, it's hard to measure that impact numerically, quantitative. So in your role in your department, how do you measure success, and how do you measure that qualitative success that you have with events all over the community?
That's a great question. We're trying, in our department, I know specifically, we're trying to get better at tracking our organization served, individual served, family served, breaking down the data and that, what areas did we hit, what age groups did we hit, what demographics did we hit. So we're working on it, and we're trying to make it so that community impact is more quantitative, I guess would be the word for it. But it is tough. And I think at the end of the day, you just got to kind of try and read the voice of the community. You know what I mean? Like, after having those conversations or those follow-up calls with the nonprofit leaders where we just partnered with, talking to people who attended an event that we had, talking to the kid who, the kid or the dad or the mom who did the Make-A-Wish thing. It's much more substantive information than just numbers, but you got to sit down and have those conversations after stuff happened to make sure that everyone was on the same page and felt like they were appreciated and felt like they were impacted.
At the easy way to put that is, if you leave an event and everybody's happy, I think that, that equals success. We always joke, in doing youth, facing community facing events, is you see everything on the background, every little thing that goes wrong. And you're thinking there's no way people are going to enjoy this. And at the end of the day, they're coming up to you and saying, man, that was a great event. This was awesome. I can't wait to do it again. And you're like, well, you should have seen it from my point of view, because it's totally different. But, at the end of the day, that's what you're looking for, right? You're looking for that feedback, and it can be good, it can be bad, because both of that, is going to help down the road when you do an event a second time. So, and that idea of constructive criticism, sometimes whether you're in school, in your family, in an organization, that's tough to kind of take in, because you are being criticized for what you're doing. So, but how important is it to take that information and be able to grow from it and use that to make you the best, employee student that you can be?
Yeah. I think it's huge. At the end of the day, we're here to serve the community. My department, specifically, we're here to impact the community impact. So having those conversations with people on the front end and on the back end, like, what do you need? What could we give that would fill a need? What did we do this year that was missing? Something like that. For me personally, I try and always have those constructive conversations with my coworkers. I'm very blessed and lucky to be around. One of my coworkers has been in the league for 11 years with a couple different teams, and my boss has been here for 25 years. So they have those experiences. They have those constructive criticism and all that stuff that we can get better on. So I think as a department, we're constantly interacting with people and asking people those pointed questions and trying to fill needs. And then individually as an employee, I'm trying to learn from the wisdom and expertise that's been put in front of me.
I know Nathan's got one last question we want to ask here that came in right after we left him going through all the other awesome questions that we have. So I'm going to throw it out to him here for one or two final more questions.
Yeah, so we did get a question. This might be the trickiest question for you to answer, Jeremy. So the students want to know, and I would say you don't have to tell us the exact numbers, but maybe give us a ballpark. They're curious, what's a starting salary like working in the NFL? What could they expect to make working in the league? Again, you don't have to give us the exact numbers, but how would you answer that if students are asking that?
Let me be as political as possible with this as I can. You ain't getting rich for sure. Like if you're chasing checks, chasing money, you might want to, like, I don't know, major in finance or, engineering or something like that. You're not gonna get rich, but I got an apartment in downtown Nashville and I go out on the weekends and went out to eat last night. You're gonna be fine. So I guess that would be my political answer is you're not rich, but you're comfortable. You're gonna be okay. You'll make it, I promise.
I love the way you answered that because we get the same question a lot and we say basically the same exact thing. So I appreciate you doing that. Hopefully the students appreciate that. Again, thanks for being a part of the program. So Jake, back to you to kind of wrap things up here.
Thank you. And we did get kind of a fun question here, and I'm going to kind of pivot off of it. Not exactly what it is, but question is, could you, oh, never mind. I just took it away, but I'm going to ask it anyway. Could you complete the Derrick Henry band workout that we've all seen on social media?
No, absolutely not. That dude is a monster. I'm not exactly a weight room freak or anything, but there's no way I could do that. That guy's a monster. I'll tell you, when you see him in person too, it's even more shocking.
I know he just seems to be bigger than everybody else.
So,
looking, obviously Derrick Henry is obviously one of the stars in the NFL today, and we've talked about how you use those guys in the community. But you see him on Sundays, Mondays, Thursdays, whenever it might be on game day as well. So looking at your responsibilities alone on game day, and it could vary, whether it's, have events or not, but what does a typical game day look like to you? What hours are you there? What are some of the things you're helping with? And once the ball kicks off, what are some of the other things you do throughout the game?
Yeah. So, love game days. Everyone here would say they love game days. That's kind of what you work for, right? So my responsibilities on game days, I get there about 8 a.m. for noon kickoff. Because parking, all that stuff, getting down in the employee space is going to be a mess. I do all of our charity drive things for game day. So I make sure all of our volunteers are set up, good to go. I make sure that our marketing team, our social team has got it documented. I help with our community tailgate. So every game we have a community group selected by the players that gets a free tailgate. They get 40 tickets, food covered, all that good stuff. So I help assist with that. And then if we have kids that got tickets or we have a Make-A-Wish kid that has a suite or anything like that, I do a lot of escorting, I guess would be the right way to say it, to make sure that they get from A to B, make sure they're all set up and good to go. So usually done by about first quarter, right? Once I get people to their seats and they're set, I'm good to go, which is great. Unless we have a halftime initiative, like we have youth football games at halftime that, sometimes you end up being a ref or a ball spotter or whatever it is, all that random stuff, which is great. But game days are actually usually done by about kickoff first quarter.
Nice. So those duties, other duties as assigned, right? That's in
Exactly.
the job description.
It's funny you said that, man. I joke about that with my boss all the time when I got to do something kind of tedious or whatever it is. I'm like, other duties as assigned. You just threw that one in there, didn't you?
So something cool we've been doing, something we added to the program this year is kind of a fun interactive rapid fire segment here. So I've got 6 questions, and it's going to be first thing that comes to mind, quick as you can go, just to kind of see how these questions affect you. So you ready?
I love it. Let's do it.
All right. LinkedIn, great way to network or just another social media app?
Great way to network via DMs, not via posting and all that stuff.
Number 2, GPA on a resume, include it or keep it off?
Include it if it's really good. Mine wasn't good enough to be included. So
Number 3, social media accounts, public or private?
Private. I'm not a big social media guy.
Okay. Jeans at work, every day, never, or only on Fridays?
Every day for me. I got jeans on right now. So I feel like you never know what you're going to do in a work day. So I'm jeans every day.
Number 5, coin toss, heads or tails?
Tails, always.
Number 6, you score a touchdown, go-to touchdown celebration?
Probably like a horrendous gritty or something, like a Mike Gesicki-esque gritty. Something like that would be good.
The ones that are
finger roll, that'd be a good one.
Oh, the little basketball throw in there. Yeah, that was cool. So we love those. Always some fun answers there. As we go to wrap up here, just first of all, again, thank you for being a part of the program. Can't thank you enough. All the feedback and the questions that you've answered for our students have been great. Want to wrap it up kind of to sum everything up that we talked about. So it might be the hardest question we ask you today. We talked all these things, how to get in, how to get your foot in the door, how to stay humble, do the small things that make a big impact at the end of the day. if there's one thing you want the students watching today, 3 months, 6 months, 9 months from now, watching this program, what is one thing you want them to take away and be able to apply either their life as a student or their life as an employee once they get into an organization they want to be in?
Yeah, I think it would be pursue your passions. Again, it sounds corny and simple, but that's what I did. I when sports kind of closed for me when that COVID thing happened for a little bit. And I was being a foster care recruiter in Kansas City. I just pursued my passion. My passion was the community, and my passion was serving others. And I think that really stood out for me when I was applying for jobs in sports. Is besides this guy just caring about the Titans or caring about the Packers, like we said earlier, he cares about his specific field and the work that we're going to be doing here. So whether your passion's math or marketing or business analytics, ticketing, whatever it is, just pursue that.
Awesome. Well, with that, we're going to wrap up this installment of the Pro Football Hall of Fame's Before the Snap series featuring Jeremy Schutte of the Tennessee Titans. Again, Jeremy, thank you so much for being a part of the program today.
Hey, thanks for having me, guys. I appreciate it. I had fun.
As always, make sure you subscribe, like, follow, whatever it is, to anything that here at the Pro Football Hall of Fame, as well as the Tennessee Titans, to see all the great things we have going on here with our Hall of Famers, see all the great things that Titans are doing out in the community. If you're a podcast listener, subscribe to our podcast here at the Hall of Fame, The Mission, hosted by our great friend, Jameer Howerton, interviewing Hall of Famers week in and week out, getting their thoughts on the games, Thursday night, Sunday, and Monday, everything leading into the NFL season. So make sure you stay tuned to all of that. And as I said, again, like, subscribe, follow, all those things to make sure you're staying tuned in with us here at the Pro Football Hall of Fame, as well as everything down in Nashville with the Tennessee Titans. So looking forward, looking ahead, we got one more program before we get into the holiday season here. November 11th, next Friday, we'll be speaking with Romy Graham, who's a great friend of ours, a member of the Cleveland Browns youth football team. He's going to be talking a lot of the things he does youth focus with the Cleveland Browns. So make sure you tune in for that. And as we said at the beginning, the game of football isn't just a, 18-week job. It's a pretty much 365 days a year, working in and out, all great things. So Jeremy, again, thank you for everything that you do for the game of football, the community there in the Nashville area, and indirectly everything you do for us here at the Pro Football Hall of Fame. Thank you for that from all the students and Nathan and myself. So from me, Nathan, Jeremy, Jerry, and everybody who was a part of the program today. Students, thank you so much for tuning in, and we hope to catch you